Hello, Grace. We are in April 6th reading, and we are finishing the book of Judges today. The last few days have been very difficult to read, and this is the most difficult day of reading. If you read through this and you are just like, "Oh, that was wonderful," you need to go see a psychiatrist because this is dark. We saw yesterday that Israel has become just like the Canaanites in the way that they worship Yahweh. They are sacrificing their kids to Yahweh, and they don't know who Yahweh is. They're treating him as if he is like the Canaanite gods. But we see today in this story that they are actually worse than the Canaanites. They are like Sodom and Gomorrah. And the first verse of our reading today is familiar. You probably read it a few times yesterday. It says this: "Now in those days Israel had no king." Now, is that completely true? No. We'll see in 1 Samuel that when the people demand for a king, Samuel, the prophet of God, is disappointed and frustrated with them. But God says to Samuel, "Give them a king. They have not rejected you, they have rejected me." So, what does that mean? The fact that in Judges it's communicated that they have no king means that they don't recognize that Yahweh is their king. They don't recognize that Yahweh is the one who they are supposed to look to for guidance and direction. They are just doing what is right in their own eyes, exactly the same way that the world around them operates. But that is not how we are to operate as children of God. That's not how they are to operate as the people, the chosen people of Yahweh. Now, the fact that a Levite is in the story communicates to a greater degree how depraved and wicked Israel is, because the Levites are supposed to be the most righteous, the most religious, the ministers, the priests to the Lord. And yet this Levite has a concubine, and he does something just so reprehensible. So let's look at the story. The story goes that the Levite has a concubine who leaves him, probably because this Levite is a complete jerk. Well, as he's traveling back, he doesn't want to be in an inhospitable place that is not part of Israel. So he goes to a city of Benjamin, expecting to experience the hospitality of Israel, yet he is in the town square and nobody is inviting him in. But eventually, a man from Ephraim, not even from this tribe, comes and says, "No, please stay with me." And they're having a good time. And then, in a connection back to Genesis 18 and 19, people surround the house of this man, and they demand for this man to send out the Levites so that they can abuse him and have sex with him. Now, the same thing happened in Sodom and Gomorrah when the angels of the Lord went down to Sodom, and Lot brought them into his house. But the people surround and say, "Please send these people out so that we can have sex with them." And Lot does the same thing as the man in this story in chapter 19 of Judges. Lot offers his own kids instead of the angels of the Lord. And the man offers his own daughter as well as a concubine instead of this Levite man. And that shows you a couple things. Women are viewed very lowly in that time, especially concubines. And so what happens is the Levite actually ends up pushing his concubine out, and she is mercilessly abused and raped for the entire night. And then she dies at the doorstep. And he says, "Get up, let's go." What a jerk. He picks her up, and then he brings her home and then cuts her into 12 pieces. How despicable of this man. There are other ways that he can draw attention to the horrible way that they acted. He didn't have to dismember his concubine. And so we see the wickedness of Israel has grown so much that they are not just like Canaan, they are worse than Canaan. They are just like Sodom and Gomorrah, which God destroyed with fire. That's how bad they are. And then there's this story of how they all come together, and this Levite, again, does not share the truth of what happened. He says, they were trying to kill me. Instead of communicating that he's the one who pushed her out, he tries to get them to be on his side. And so they go to fight against, all 12 tribes come together, and Judah goes up to fight against this town of Benjamin, and they are defeated. Well, they come back and they fast and they pray, and then at night they ask Yahweh, can we go again to defeat them? And Yahweh says, yes, I will give them into your hands. And then they go up to Gibeah. These Benjaminites come out and they feel like they're going to have another victory, but then they look behind them. The smoke of the city rises up, and then the people of Judah, they turn around and start attacking. This should remind you of Joshua, when Joshua and the people go up against Ai, and at first they're defeated. Why? Because of the sin of Achan. Now, the sin of Achan made the whole community disobedient. And so the fact that Judah was defeated by Benjamin highlights the fact that this community is disobedient and they have done something against God. Now, what does Joshua do when he is defeated by Ai? They fast and prayer. He falls on his face. And then the Lord answers them. And here in Judges 20:21, the Lord answers them in repentance. And then they do the exact same battle plan that Joshua used against Ai in Joshua 8:9. So this communicates another important truth, that repentance before the Lord is what drives him to support his people. And the book ends with the same phrase that we read at the beginning of this chapter. It says this: in those days Israel had no king. All the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. And this is where the story of Judges ends. They are disobedient, dishonorable, and just like everybody else around them. What is God going to do? We often look at this and we'll say, man, I would never do that. But what this is supposed to get us to see is that when we don't live with Yahweh being our king, we will end up being the exact same way as the Canaanites, as those in Sodom and Gomorrah, as the Israelites. So let's look in the mirror a little bit and say, God, please fill me so that I can live a life that is worthy of the call that you've placed upon me. I'm not sure you enjoyed this reading today, but I hope you were blessed. See you tomorrow.